Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Ope-Eh three-way pro wrestling podcast on this Wednesday, your Thursday, episode 24, boys. How we feeling today?
Oh, it's a good 2-4 there, eh?
Big old
Brandon,
Texas size 2-4.
Hell yeah.
Huh?
Brandon, I'm fucking cold. It's snowing. It's not as cold as it was the past 2 days, but up here in Scotty, it's been rough.
I mean, at least it's fucking snowing. At least there isn't ball shrinking cold like it's been the past few days with nothing but, pavement and gray skies and dead trees.
So what's the temperature over
I'm,
where you guys are?
Right
it's
now,
actually
it
warming
is
up.
20 degrees, feels like 9.
Okay, because we've been around. I'm converting because I'm polite. Um, we've been around 5 Fahrenheit for the last week, and it still is.
Donnie, yesterday I woke up and it was negative 16 Fahrenheit. With the wind chill, it felt like negative 32.
Well, that's waking
Yeah,
up in the
you're
morning. I'm saying that's the high. The high is like
That
5. If you're waking up in the
that
morning, it's
entire
probably
that
right around there.
entire day did not change yesterday. The past two
not.
days, it was negatives the entire time.
Yeah, your temp I would say is probably like the standard deviation compared to what ours has been. Like ours has been like below and above that, but like right, what Pierce said, like we've had what was it like it felt like negative 20 the other day pretty
Negative 20 on
consistently
Monday,
The other day.
and then and then
and the day before.
yesterday was consistently negative 30 something,
It was
almost the
stupid.
entire day.
I'm amazed my fucking car started to be honest with you. Going
Yeah,
out and fucking the planet Hoth over here.
yeah, it's been rough. But you know, since we're talking about the past, why don't we talk about
I did not have anything on the button yet because I was going to say follow us on social media and
In the
follow
present
us on those kinds of things.
and in
Uh,
the
that's what I
future.
was leading you into?
and
Yeah, Donnie.
follow us on YouTube because I have started posting our content on YouTube. We have now 3 episodes of our podcast live on YouTube. I just literally
We'll,
did the
we'll
third one now.
slowly but surely we'll add a face cam, but
Yes.
it's gonna be a slow burn.
Yeah, we got to catch up on the backlog of audio content, and then we'll have to figure out all the video stuff if that's doable, even. Because,
At
yeah.
least where we're currently recording, probably not, but maybe we go back to Riverside FM. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Um,
steadily evolving, boys.
all right. Now then that that's out of the way, Pierce, tell me what the
It,
hell happened on January 22nd at some point in wrestling history.
it's Rumble season, boys. 1994, the Royal Rumble took place from the Civic Center in Providence, Rhode Island. Before we get to the main Rumble match, this is the event where Yokozuna and Undertaker had a casket match with the Undertaker lost, and then his soul went up to heaven in the post match angle, and Undertaker took time off for the first time ever in his career at that point.
Dope. I remember that.
Sure,
Like
man.
that's a big memory as my childhood in my childhood of watching The Undertaker. Was that match.
I bet many pants were shat at that projection, I feel. Because you didn't see that a lot, especially in pro wrestling. It's kind of like when
No,
they had Tupac on the hologram for the first time. People, were like, oh,
but
but
in the eponymous match, Lex Luger and Bret Hart went over the top rope at the same time and landed on the floor at the same time. For the first time, and currently only time, they were crowned co-winners.
And then what happened in that
kind of,
main event at Mania that year?
So what happened with Mania is that so Bret Hart flipped a coin and lost, so he won, so he got to wrestle in the main event, while Lex Luger had his championship match earlier in the event. But because he had the main event, he had to wrestle Owen Hart. He lost to Owen in the opening match in one of, if not the greatest opening match in Mania history. Lex lost his match, and then Bret beat Yoko in the main event.
Okay. It's very convoluted.
Canadian excellence is essentially what it comes down to.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but that sequence is still pretty convoluted.
Whatever makes it work. Can I also go back and can I just express admiration at your use of the word eponymous, Pierce? That was great. I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
that. As a wordy myself, a man of culture, as they say.
Sometimes the professor's gotta profess, as it were.
Okay, there, buds.
Professor does the professing.
Professor's gonna
But
move
let's
on to
Excellent.
jump
next
ahead.
week.
Let's jump ahead exactly 1 year. 1995, the Royal Rumble took place from the USF Sundome in Tampa, Florida. Shawn Michaels famously wins the match from numero uno, last eliminating number 2, Davey Boy Smith. He went over the top, skinned the cat, only 1 foot hit the floor. This is also the shortest Royal Rumble in history for 30-man because the entrants were changed from 90 seconds to 60 seconds in a very bad idea.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
imagine a little bit of a fuster cluck there.
yeah.
The
60
match
seconds
went like
sounds too fast.
the match went like 36 minutes, and then the whole story is just Shawn and Davey Boy. So the announcers like they've been in there for so long. It's not a short time. They've been in there quite a long time. And then it was just nobodies after nobodies after nobodies. And 1995 is categorically, besides maybe 2018, 2019, the worst year in WWE history. So
Yeah, hard to contend that. And I mean, you can, throw a rock blindfolded and hit a nobody in 1995 WWE.
yeah, I'm pretty sure
So,
number 27 was Adam Bomb, and the call was Adam Bomb is going to win the Royal Rumble, and no, he was not.
Thank goodness.
not in this universe anyway.
But
Somewhere out there
we'll
amongst
jump
the
ahead to
parallels.
2008, an ECW TV taping. Chavo Guerrero would defeat CM Punk to become the ECW champion.
Oof.
I think that's a fine. I mean, compared to the Big Show, Bobby Lashley.
Now, this wasn't Kerwin White, right? This was actual Chavo.
Yeah,
Okay.
This was La
Kerwin White.
Familia era.
Kerwin White existed for 2 months, and then Eddie passed away.
Mm.
But I think CM Punk and Chavo Guerrero really kind of were good ECW champions. Like you could see them if you put them in 95 through 2001, they'd fit that bill completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, in 2018, Raw celebrated its 25th anniversary by simulcasting from 2 separate arenas. I believe it was the Manhattan Center where they held the first Raw, and JR and Jim Ross were on commentary there, and then they went to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn for like the main show. And then, it was also a bad idea. Famously, there was Jim Ross sleeping. In the main event, The Miz would defeat Roman Reigns for the Intercontinental Championship. So,
A noteworthy headline.
Sounds like all these simulcasts tend to be pretty bad.
when it's 2 separate arenas, yes.
Mm.
Because
WrestleMania 2 was okay.
no, it wasn't.
I
It was bad.
mean, maybe they thought they could do better. Hey,
You
well,
got
at least
told by
maybe
the
this episode of
professor.
Raw could say it was better than WrestleMania 2.
Vince
Perhaps.
had his Icarus wings on, and they melted real quick for WrestleMania 2.
Man, you were just on point with all these like literary things here today, Pierce. That was an excellent analogy.
Thank you.
Icarus wings. Pierce on fire today. Wow. Look at
But
that.
we're gonna end this with a little bit of a somber note. This really would pertain more to me and Brandon, but I believe it was last Friday.
Yep.
At the age of 90, WWE Hall of Famer and Milwaukee Brewers broadcast legend Bob Uecker passed away. Mr. Baseball. You may know him from on the wrestling side. He was at WrestleMania 4. Andre choked him. He was going after the Fabulous Moolah. All this great fun. If you're a baseball fan, obviously he's been calling Brewers games. He was calling Brewers games for almost 50 years. And then, obviously, if you've ever seen the movie Major League, he was fantastic in the movie, just a bit outside. And Milwaukee Brewers baseball is not the same, will not be the same without Bob Uecker.
No,
And
he's emblematic of our team and our culture, really. So
I mean, you go to Solly's Grill, there's a seat for him that says it's for Euchre. I believe a bunch of Milwaukee restaurants have stuff like that. I just wanted to take a moment because in the wrestling world, he does have some weight as a WWE Hall of Famer for his contributions for early WrestleManias. So rest in peace, Mr. Baseball. You will be truly missed in the state of Wisconsin and in the other sports world in general.
Yeah, not another one like him on the planet. There'll never be another one going forward.
Nope.
I don't have much to add there. So rest in peace, Bob. But for a second, I thought you were giving a eulogy for our odds of going to WrestleMania.
I mean, I'm still probably going to go. We just have to buy when the time is right. The single day tickets got released today, and
The time is never right, it seems, if you are looking at WWE prices, because those tickets for one day for one ticket in the nosebleed section were $600 before taxes and fees, if you want any kind of a sight line. And that's still just absolutely batshit crazy.
right.
So thanks for nothing, WWE. I hope not all manias are this price
I
going
think this is
forward.
more. I think this is more TKO than WWE.
It's a package deal.
Well,
Um,
WWE was bought by TKO, and I guess Ari Emanuel, the head of TKO, said these ticket prices are too low.
Great. Well, that's great. Nevertheless,
Oh yeah,
it's stupid
suckers
that
are
I
born
can
every minute,
sit first row. I'm literally going to be sitting front row at SmackDown before Elimination Chamber in Toronto, and it is less. So the pair of those tickets, front row, hard cam side, SmackDown before Elimination Chamber, is cheaper than sitting in the 400s with a shit sight line at this event in Las Vegas. Like that's for one day. That's
absolutely
insane.
bonkers.
That's
Right.
insane.
There's been exactly one decent deal that I've seen, and it's really not even that decent of a deal.
Let's say decent relative to what exactly?
Yeah. You're only
Uh,
paying 5 times more compared to last Mania than the 10 times more that it's basically trajecting to be.
Right.
we're so spoiled.
What a
You know.
I'd,
deal.
I'd be paying a third more if I bought these tickets, which is a lot. But I'm also with.
You also bought them secondhand though too, and you didn't
Yeah.
buy nosebleeds either when you went last year. So for
No, I
context,
bought very, very nice tickets
so
last year. I had club seats.
yeah, so for context, I bought nosebleeds last year in Philly. I literally pulled up the invoice. I know this is beating a dead horse because we talked about this a few months back, but I literally pulled up the invoice again today just for comparison, and I spent $271 USD on a pair of 2 night tickets for a very, very similar sightline. Obviously, it's a different stadium, but it's in the
Mhm.
corner near the stage, but not flagged as a limited viewpoint. I went to go cash out those 2 night tickets today just to see, and it was $2,700 after fees. 10 times multiplier in one
Right.
year for the
I
exact same seats, essentially.
the tickets I looked at that I thought were a good deal. They were section 117, so a mid-level section. You're far back in it, but they're going to be good seats. You got perfect sight. They were after fees and taxes. What was it, 1650
Per
for
ticket,
both nights?
for both nights.
Per ticket.
Yeah, I mean, in truth, Marta and I probably spent less the entire Philadelphia weekend, and that was going to all 5 shows and WrestleMania World and flying to Philly than that pair would be for us this year.
Right. And just for shits and giggles, I looked at what it was if I did per day in that exact section, and it was like 1,000 a ticket.
Yeah,
That's why I say
the per
in
day
terms of
Yeah, sorry, I
what
cut
it
you off.
could be.
Yeah, the per day thing I get it because like the combo ticket should get you a little bit of a discount because you're guaranteed to sit there twice. So I was not surprised to see that 2 single days would be more than the 1 2 day pass, but like it's still crazy. Like I think I'm just most mad with the fact that that's still at that very initial pre-sale when we saw the 2 day tickets going for $400 to Raiders season ticket holders, and for actual fans that had to wait one more day, we had to spend over 1,000. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it seems like people
You
aren't really
got
paying these prices though, so they will drop. It's just taking time.
yeah. No, well,
and that's the hope, right?
yeah, well, that's the hope. I
But
mean, we'll keep monitoring it. Luckily, I get my big annual bonus from my work in the middle of March, which coincides hopefully pretty well with a nice little price drop for these tickets. But if not, then we're just going to tailgate and find a watch party and not go to WrestleMania, and I will have no problem with that.
either way, it'll be a good time, and either way, it'll be a
Absolutely.
celebration. It'll be a celebration of like our fandom, of our friendship, and that's what at the core of it is really what it's all about, right?
Agree.
Like WrestleMania is great. Vegas, and that's the thing too. Like going into Vegas, like outrage aside, you look at it objectively, like it's a newer stadium. It's in Las fucking Vegas. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, they got to give the Raiders fans something to look forward to. So of course, they get a little bit of a discount in spite of their shitty team.
Yeah, they can't even hire a
But
coach now.
yeah, well, maybe that's what all the extra WrestleMania
Yeah,
money
I
is
didn't
going towards.
They tried to
Who's to
didn't like
say?
implement
the
Johnson.
idea from the Raiders to sit firing Pierce, but you know, not the podcast for it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
but I mean, it's looking at it objectively though. Like I just hope they don't go back to Vegas anytime soon. I get the appeal and the allure of putting an event in Vegas, but the hope would be is that there's enough in their ear to kind of suggest that maybe this is not. But then again, they're hosting the Royal Rumble in Riyadh next year, so
well, that's a little
maybe
different. That's a little different in fairness.
I
They,
guess
they, they
That's
get they get a
specifically to piss
giant
me
bag
off.
from the Saudi government to do that kind of stuff, which probably even exceeds the ticket sales that they would make from this mania. But you got to imagine
sure.
there's a data guy who's sitting at TKO HQ and looking at the ticket sales and being like, these aren't selling as fast as they were last year. That's for sure. Like, I want to
Oh,
see
absolutely not.
I want to see what the map looks like right now.
There,
I mean,
there,
like,
there's a
let's
lot
be
of
real. We know that WrestleMania both days are going to the matches and the segments are going to validate. They're going to be worthy of the WrestleMania brand, right? That's we talk about the Rumble coming up, and it goes without saying that it's absolutely loaded top to bottom, and it hasn't even been loaded up yet. But we can just imagine. So WrestleMania is going to be a barn burner regardless, but not the kind of barn burner that warrants taking out a loan or putting something up against a house where you're going there just to fly out and then never mind the event itself, but like everything around there on the strip surrounding, like Vegas is Vegas is fucking pricey, boys.
Yeah,
Like,
a pair of one night tickets costs more than my monthly rent in the most expensive city in Canada.
right.
So, yeah. Anyways, I could bitch about this for a while. There's still lots of tickets available on Ticketmaster.com if anybody's actually interested in spending, $1,700 US for a pair of one night tickets.
Don't be dumb. FOMO is not real. The tickets will drop if we wait. I'm saying this to the listeners. Do not get the FOMO. Oh, no, I'm gonna miss WrestleMania. Oh no, you're not. It'll be okay. The tickets will drop. It's just gonna take time.
Yeah,
Yep.
believe it or not, we still got plenty of time before the event, so there's
Yeah,
lots
we
of
still
room
got
for
three
stuff to happen.
months. There's still 3 months
Yeah,
out.
it's almost exactly 3 months.
Right. I ain't worried about it. I mean, I'm a little outraged, not enough
And
to
I
lose sleep
I,
over, but
I
it's what
still
it
have
is.
to buy my plane ticket. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
Not the ones where we're, working third shift to just to catch flights with layovers and everything. The ones you were telling me about.
Oh yeah,
Is that the one you're
those
still going with?
Oh hell no.
The vampire flights?
No, I might just because of how the hotel situation is going to work. I think I might do one where there's a layover and I get into Vegas a little late. Save a little money that way, you know.
Yeah. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. though, Pierce. I did it once. I did it for months. I told myself I would never go back. I can't
Yeah,
do it
well,
anymore, Pierce.
That sounds
I'm
miserable.
retired from third shifts.
The third shift life is not for me, Pierce.
Ain't for me, but I think it's time we take a step back. Let's open the doors to the Hot Take Emporium, boys.
All right. Very excited to say that this is our second ever Hot Take Emporium. We're opening it up for business. So if you recall our first episode way back, what episode was our first Hot Take Emporium? Do you guys remember?
Was it was it
15?
13?
I'm gonna check really quick. Our Hot Take Emporium episode was episode number 13. You are
13.
correct. Yeah,
Eh,
back in the middle of October. So for anyone that didn't check out that episode, you should check it out first and foremost after you're done listening to this one. But we go around the table with our hottest of takes associated to professional wrestling. We had a little bit of preamble on this, and we kind of talked about not wanting to just turn this into a straight 2025 prediction show. So I think I can personally say I limited my hot takes to not be so like predictive to what will happen, and more so just general ideas. But we'll see how we go around here. I guess with that said, I'll kick us off. Um, with the recent news that's come out associated to Britt Baker, whether it is true or not, that is unknown. Regardless, I do not believe that she will wrestle in a mainstream wrestling production after she's done in AEW. So no WWE, no TNA, certainly not renewing at AEW. I do not think she will be staying in professional wrestling.
Yeah,
Hard to
allegedly, she's still
disagree.
got some time on her contract.
Yeah, I don't. I'm
So
not
she,
saying when she's done. I'm just saying that when inevitably she is done, I don't see her
ah,
sticking around.
Hard
hmm.
to disagree.
Why do you disagree?
If Tessa Blanchard can come back to TNA, I think Britt Baker can come into WWE or TNA.
I think so. There's two things here. One, TNA. I don't think she's going to get the money that she would want, just straight up.
She's
And
also a dentist. I'm pretty sure she makes a good enough money in her main focus job, you know?
right, yeah, I understand that, but like, it's still a big inconvenience to have to go around and do all that stuff if you're not being compensated for it, especially when you make good money as a dentist. She could do like specialty spots here or there potentially, but can't see her coming back full time. And then as far as WWE is concerned, I don't think they'll just let her keep doing her dentistry work. And if that's so like a deal breaker for her, I just don't see her coming to WWE either.
The thing is with
Yeah.
that is that her dentistry is in Florida. So
Ah,
it's
so
very
there's a sick joke you could make here. I see what you're doing. You could put her in her
What are we
favorite
doing?
place in wrestling, and that's the Performance Center.
Oh, like a little Sarah Del Rey deal.
Well, you do you
Maybe
remember
she
her
just goes down to coach.
comments? Do you remember her comment about the Performance Center when she was with the
no.
Do I remember? Not
She made a
distinctly, no.
pretty scathing remark about the Performance Center. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
How long ago was this, out of curiosity?
This was in 2021.
Oh, so during AEW's heyday when they were
Yes.
still king shit.
So this
Okay.
was this was speaking to Maddie Paddock of the Daily Star. It's a direct quote. I love the NXT women's division and I'm friends with so many of those girls, but they have a performance center. My performance center was AEW Dynamite live on Wednesday nights. I was learning as we go. You train in the ring, you cut promos and practice as much as you can, but I don't have a wrestling ring in my backyard, a television setup, or a hard cam to pan to. So a lot of what you see was just trial and error, and again, because we don't have a performance center. I think that's why fans have taken a liking to me because they've been along the ride with me since day one. Um, this was actually not the exact quote I was looking for, but there
I was gonna
was
say that doesn't seem very
no, no,
scathing.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
I
no.
think it lends to your point, though.
There was a bit
It does.
there. She basically it was along the lines. I need to find this because I literally saw it this week. that too many people are. It's not productive to put people in a warehouse and teach them all to wrestle the exact same way.
That's a fair point.
No.
Yeah, you just want them to wrestle all differently and, land on each other's necks and, break each other's ankles and all that other good shit that seems to be happening these days. But I mean, to that point though, like I could see Britt talking shit about AEW or talk about shit about the Performance Center when AEW was effectively top of its own mountain, when she was pretty much at the top of AEW's mountain in the women's division at that time. These days though, like, to your point, Donnie, I actually agree. I think that if she's got this reputation amongst the current locker room, and if it's true what they say that people just effectively want her gone, she can be gone. Like she loses nothing by leaving pro wrestling necessarily. It's not like she contributes a hell of a lot to the NXT women's division. I mean, if you were to take one, move into main roster, and then supplement with her on the back end, then maybe there's something to be said for that. But it's Britt Baker, DMD. And I mean, dentistry is a very lucrative practice.
It is.
Right.
Sorry, I did find the quote. I'm going to just say it really quick. I don't think putting a bunch of models and athletes off the street in a warehouse and teaching them all to do the same thing the same way at the same time is going to create a successful roster.
I have to believe that perspective has been altered since that quote had taken place.
I would hope so.
Was that? I would hope so too, especially when you see, and you've gone to bat for the division multiple times on the cast and in personal talks too, Don. Like the NXT women's roster is second to none in the entire world of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you have a broad array of styles that go into it, and nobody, I would argue, is taught. I mean, you can argue for maybe her promos and presentation to some degree. There's some unilateral stuff going on there, but as far as the wrestlers, like Stephanie Paquer is a vastly different wrestler than Julia, who's a vastly different wrestler than Sol Ruca, who's a vastly different wrestler than Ariana Grace. Like you have a broad array of talent within the NXT women's roster alone. And that's not even counting, when they go up to the main roster and you see what they offer there. But I mean, as far as Britt Baker wrestling, it's not like she needs to. I don't want to say she wouldn't be missed if she were to go away. But let's face facts, like you get to a point in life, right? Right. I feel like I speak for us when we say like you're only getting older. Britt Baker, she's a millennial, 33 years old.
Yep.
She's got a practice that she can think about. She doesn't really have much to stay for. She can say she's been to the top of the mountain in pro wrestling on the women's end. Like there are a lot of wrestlers, men or women, tag teams who have never been able to say like I was a WWE superstar. I achieved some modicum of success within WWE, the big leagues. And it doesn't really tarnish the legacy one way or the other. Britt Baker was a standout piece in AEW's founding, and she was arguably their biggest female star there for a while. And she did most of that on her own merit. So the way I see it, if she were to leave now, maybe she's fed up with the business as a whole. Maybe she's just fed up with Tony, whatever. But at the end, she's always got something to fall back on. And Frank, if you are in that field, I feel like that's something you need to go back to, and you need to maintain a practice in order to maintain, what's the word I'm looking for? Competency.
Yeah.
And make sure that that's something that you can rely on as you get older, as you approach retirement age, what have you. So.
Agreed. That's my perspective with that, right? Like the WWE schedule is not going to warrant that unless she just only wants to work Tuesday nights. And even then, she's going to be expected to be in the Performance Center, putting in the work, doing promo classes, all that stuff. I don't see that flying.
Right. With major notes of irony floating around there all the while.
Of course.
But,
right.
Anyways, that was my first one. That was probably my most tame one.
Well, more we can look forward to.
Who wants to go next? Brandon, go.
Yeah, I'll take one.
No, I'm saying anything.
Since we're talking. Oh, here we are. So we're talking about, on the note of major wrestling companies, TNA, I feel like is going to have a very, very strong showing in 2025, but that's not my hot take because I feel like it itself is self-evident. Unfortunately, I feel like TNA's biggest stars in 2025 will come predominantly out of NXT, or they'll go to NXT. Um, I've been kind of wary on the partnership with NXT for TNA, and while there are obvious benefits to it, like for instance, when you announce that NXT is going to be part of the Genesis pay per view, suddenly you have a spike in ticket sales. That obviously bears a big time financial benefit, right? But I feel like as time goes on, you're going to start to see more and more NXT talent get featured, like Cora Jade, like Fraxium, and going forward. And I feel like you're going to get a lot of TNA talent who have been there and are molding within that brand that are going to get outshined by NXT talent ultimately, because solely because of the branding.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
in a simplified way, TNA's biggest stars will be NXT stars in
yeah.
2025.
I don't think that's really a hot take. I could easily say that's fair to say that TNA will talent will be diluted because there's an obligation to put WWE talent due to their most recently negotiated partnership. I don't know if it's going to happen at every single show, but
Well, I mean, I feel like, and that's the sad thing too, is like as a TNA fan, and perhaps speaking on behalf of other TNA fans who have been around for a while, like you always wanted to see TNA endure, and you wanted to see it, remain as a steady number two, as the steady alternative, like it's been for the last 20 plus years, right? And now, with AEW kind of on its steady but very, apparent downward trajectory, you hope to see TNA do well. And then obviously, like I said, this deal with WWE is going to pay dividends for it. But when you look at the spirit of the brand and when you look at, what they offered and, what they meant to the industry as a whole, now they're effectively, apparently, a feeder brand, kind of like how maybe ECW was back in the 90s, or like how Evolve was to a lesser degree, or Ring of Honor was to a lesser degree in the 2000s. Um, with this obviously being a more direct partnership, it's there for everyone to see. It's great that Triple H is boosting the brand on social media and generating awareness to TNA. It can only help,
mhm.
but it's not going to be, it will be better, but it'll also be worse at the same time. And my concern, and as a fan, is that on the worst end of things, TNA is going to lose a lot of what it made it special, like creating its own stars, like having standouts like AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels and Bobby Roode and James Storm, these guys who grinded and had to fight for every bit of notoriety and visibility that they got. And then their reputations precede them when they come to the WWE eventually. But now I feel like it's almost kind of like a farm in a way,
Pierce, what do you
where a
think?
lot of these guys
Sorry, I didn't
are
mean
going
to
to be
cut you
curating
off
that.
there. Pierce,
No,
you
you're
can jump in
fine.
for this
Sorry, I
one.
I mean,
got to the rambles.
I see what you're talking about, but I just I think the partnership is going to be good as a whole for both because TNA is full of a lot of savvy veterans more than, younger stars, while NXT is up and comers and people who are maybe just starting out in wrestling. So whoever quote unquote crosses the line, I think it's going to be helpful. Like this Masha Slamovich and Cora Jade, I think it's going to be just really, really good for Cora Jade. So I get what you're saying, but I think it's going to do more good than harm.
Time will tell.
It is true.
Uh,
Oh, ciao.
Pierce, give us your first take.
William Regal is the greatest wrestler never to hold a world title.
Mm, it's a little cold
Mm,
over here, Pierce. I don't know.
I don't
I
agree
don't know
with
how much
that.
heat that take is generating.
I
Why?
understand the Roddy Pipers, Owen Harts, uh, Jake the Snake Roberts, but William Regal is, I think, realistically the greatest wrestler to never hold a world title.
I mean, you listed two that, or didn't list two that I would put ahead of them, ahead of those, any of those, clearly, and that's Mr. Perfect and Scott Hall.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'd say those are pretty solid entries as well.
I just think with everything that William Regal has done, it surpasses. The only thing that William Regal cannot surpass Scott Hall on is like importance to wrestling, because without Scott Hall, there's no NWO. So I think, just from a pure wrestling standpoint, and you can make the argument for Mr. Perfect or Roddy Piper. I think that in 2009, when he was apparently supposed to win it, if William Regal does not uh, shoot himself in the foot, proverbially, a heel run with the WWE Championship while he was King Regal, would have been really, really good. To the point where he probably could have gotten to, maybe not Mania main event with it, but he would have gotten to Mania with it, and I think he would have just been one of the most despicable heel champions we've ever seen. And I think he's the greatest wrestler never to hold it.
I'm just offended that you wouldn't say that Shelton Benjamin is that person.
I think he would have been a world heavyweight champion like in our last Hot Take Emporium. And I think in 2005 to 2008, like I said, it would have been perfect time, but they did not want to make new stars that weren't named Edge.
You know, in present day, boys, he's not performing too bad. He still looks to be in pretty primo shape. He's
No,
still
they're probably
putting
going to
out.
win the
So
tag titles tonight.
is that what's the happening?
Yeah, Hurt Syndicate versus Private Party.
Oh,
I'm going to see what Bleacher Report says. I know these are all opinion based. They say Roddy Piper is number one, and William Regal is not on the list.
Well, that's a shitty
it's
list then.
well, I mean, to be fair, it's extremely hard to argue against Roddy Piper because when you talk about significance to the business, it's hard to undersell what Roddy Piper contributed.
No.
Obviously, co-headlining with Mr. T and Orndorff and Hogan for the first ever WrestleMania, his pop culture relevance, the movies he was in, the influence he's had on God knows how many wrestlers since his heyday,
MJF says that
the heat,
Piper
the
is like
heat he attracted.
an influence.
Oh, absolutely. People wanted to fucking mug him daily.
Got stabbed. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Inside the Ropes. Inside the Ropes has him at number 9 on their list.
Okay.
Number 1 on that list is also Roddy Piper. And Sportster has Owen Hart as number 1. And also William Regal is not on this list.
Well, sports stars.
I'm just looking at the first lists that I'm seeing. What about Sports Kita?
Oh,
I
sports Kita.
That's why this is a hot take, because it's
Yeah,
probably
it's a hot take. I agree.
it's like
Because
it's
Speaking of
like
hot
my
takes, I do a
Batista
lot
pick.
of shit posting on sports Kita.
It's like my Batista pick for Undertaker Rivals. It's not the it's the left turn. It's not the one that you see coming. I think William Regal
Go ahead.
is one of the most underrated performers of the generation.
Sports Kita
And
has Arn Anderson as number 1.
that's just incredibly wrong.
I mean, I would certainly sell him as a top 5, but certainly not a top candidate at all.
I wouldn't.
Not bad though.
Other names that I've seen on these lists consistently: Big John Studd, Jake the Snake, as mentioned, Coco Beware,
Coco Beware was a jobber.
Ted DiBiase.
Okay, I'll take Ted DiBiase.
Dean Malenko, Jesse the Body Ventura.
Jesse Ventura for sure.
Jesse Ventura
I would put
for sure. Malenko is kind of more of a... Magnum TA would have been a world champion. It's just he had an unfortunate accident.
Incredibly
He was going to win.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of names that I'm seeing on lists that are not William Regal. And I would not have put... I would have put... Personally, I probably would have put Scott Hall first. He seemed like the most believable person to be world champion. And I didn't get to appreciate Roddy Piper being of the age that I wouldn't have watched much of his stuff. But I'm sure Roddy Piper probably would have been.
His stuff still holds up if you go and watch it today.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a hot take though.
Yes,
I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you for at least somewhat agreeing, Brandon. I appreciate that.
No, I mean it's I could see it, and I don't disagree with you at all. So
All right,
who's
Donnie,
got
what's your
the
next one?
who's got the next one
All
done?
right, I believe that the Wyatt Six will be disbanded before any of them win a title.
Not a hot take. I think that's just accurate.
I didn't want to put a date on when they'll be disbanded, but again, because I didn't want to turn this
Fucking
into a
next week, maybe.
I didn't want to turn this into a prediction show. But man, how disappointing have they been?
It's not their fault. They just haven't been booked. They came
I
out the gate so hot, and then they just disappeared.
Would you not think it's too ambitious to have a faction that's that large that doesn't have a single person who should be, a focal point to win a main title?
I would have put the tag titles on them.
Well, and it's kind of crazy too when you consider the fact that they spent how many weeks profiling each of them individually. So you would have thought that there would have been something to build off of there when it comes to their personalities, like putting them on promos at least, like giving them some sort of a lore or a motive or something.
Or
But right,
keeping their backstage, like how they had Bo Dallas show up without being Uncle Howdy, have those guys show up backstage in just like like have somebody talking and then have Nikki Cross just be like, "Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Scottish or whatever," and they're like, "What the
sure.
fuck? Aren't you like crazier than normal now?"
So Scottish, but like,
More
no, I
Scottish?
think that.
I don't. I pulled that out of my ass. I don't know for sure if she's Scottish. I know she's some sort of European.
She's very
Yeah,
Scottish
she's
there.
Scottish.
She's
Oh
quite
yeah, got
Scottish.
that right.
Sorry, you were saying, Brandon?
Um, No, my fear with the Wyatt Six was kind of what it had been at the outset, was that something in the back of my mind is like, these guys, they're adding too many layers to too big of a group for them to be featured prominently and consistently on a week to week basis where they can get me to care. And it was hard enough just putting them on Raw. Then you have to try and think about, well, how am I going to book these guys for a PLE? Like, you have to, it's hard enough sometimes to get one on one stories down where you're getting people to care, you're creating intrigue in the story, but now you've got a fivesome of people who people did want to, I feel like, see more of it. I feel like, people had high hopes at some point, at some time for Joe Gacy. And then also for Dexter Loomis, people thought he kind of went by the wayside there for a bit. Nikki Cross, obviously being a former women's champion. And then
Eric Rowan
Bo
being
Dallas.
rehired.
Yep, Eric Rowan as the rehire, carrying the spirit of Brody Lee, and Bray, obviously,
Yeah.
being the one who arguably had, besides Bo himself, the most experience with Bray.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, like how do you book a faction like that and get people to care and not overshadow the rest of what you're trying to do?
You know what they
Because
remind
now
me
you've
of?
got,
You know what they remind me
was
of?
that
They remind me of Retribution.
a little bit,
They're not that bad.
And well, no, not from a this is how they're being casted with stupid masks and all that stuff. That's not what I mean. But
None
what
of
I
them are
mean
named
is
Flapjack.
the sum of the parts of Retribution at the time that they were Retribution, there was not a star, right? Like Mustafa
right?
Ali was the biggest name talent that they had, and he was far
Yep.
from being a star at that point. He was lower mid card at best. That's the exact same scenario that the Wyatt Six are in right now. Not a
I would
single
say you'd have yeah.
who on there is more than a lower mid carder in like their body of work up to that point.
Well, even well before the Wyatt Six, you had a star in the making potentially with Bo Dallas. I will argue, and that perhaps is a hot take in and of itself,
I would say it
but
is because it certainly has never presented itself that way.
well, no, and they've kind of juggled around with him too. He was an early NXT star. They had some sort of a flash in the pan success with him when he was
You were
NXT
NXT
champ.
champion for like 200 days.
That,
I mean, he was the prototypical
yeah,
shit-eating heel
and look
that
what
they
that's
had
done
there.
for. Sorry, I don't mean to cut
I
you off, but look
believe still.
what that's done for people like I don't know Shayna Baszler Look what that's done for Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Like just because had a long reign on NXT does not mean anything when it comes to the main roster.
I think Shayna Baszler is more of the person that booked going into WrestleMania 36 than on Shayna. Because apparently Becky wanted to drop the title to her, and Vince is like, no, no, you're going to win.
Sure, but then what's the excuse for the other two and many more? We've been over that before, too.
Tommaso, I mean, that was Vince booking, I would say, and then Johnny left
Karrion
before he
Kross.
could.
Again, that's more
Yeah.
Vince, but even still, like people don't care about him now either.
I care about Karrion Kross. He's one of
I
the
mean,
most interesting characters on TV right now.
well, I mean, I guess getting a little bit away from like the NXT Black and Gold comparisons, the NXT era comparisons like we've had, like to the point of what you made there, Don, where you're talking about them versus Retribution. And I feel like while I don't necessarily agree that there isn't like a single star, like I said, I feel like, and especially with what Bo has been putting out since the outset when it comes to the Wyatt Six, I feel like the same thing that they have going wrong with them is the same thing that Retribution had going wrong with them. They're just kind of like agents of chaos. They don't have a real motive. I mean, sure, you could make out that they were going after people who were just bad people, right? They betrayed their friends, they betrayed their family, and maybe you could tie that to something, but that gets old after a while.
Mm-hmm.
You
You have a
know,
limited
you
shelf
don't,
life
you
for
can't.
stuff like that.
You could sell I mean, they sold a good pile of merch, I'm sure, when the Wyatt Six shirts first came out.
I bought one.
But yeah, I would have bought one too. That's one of the few WWE shirts I probably would have bought that year. But I mean, it's hard, right? Like, how do you book a faction like that to where you're not taking away from what's going on with the rest of the card? Because now you've got women's mid card titles to build. You've got all these little sub feuds that don't even require titles that you got to build, you know? So I get why they can't stay on Raw based on that. And hopefully SmackDown is a better place for them to kind of exist.
All these
But this
other,
is kind of the make or break.
yeah,
Like,
all these other
what do
large
they do on SmackDown?
factions, all these other large factions that we've seen in recent history of WWE, they've always had at least one person that could carry a large part of the card. They can be a headliner. They can do main events, and I just don't think Bo Dallas is that guy.
Yeah, maybe not right now. I could see it being hard to see right now for sure. I love personally like the little montage they've been doing, a little kind of steady progression towards his resembling Bray in voice, in appearance, in mannerism. That's right in spirit with what I feel like they exist to do.
Mm.
But then how do you strike when the iron eventually gets hot enough? And how
He's gonna,
much?
you know what I'm gonna say? He's gonna need a big Rumble appearance to win me over anytime soon. Like,
Yeah,
we'll get into that next
this,
week, but like,
yeah,
I think that's one of the only things that can save them right now is having a big spot. Not all five of them, obviously, but they need an appearance at the
yeah.
Rumble, and it needs to matter.
I love the Wyatt Six, man, and I
I
wish the
like the
best for him.
idea
But
of it.
this
I
is,
like the idea of it. I like the story of it. I'm just like they're just not doing anything.
no, unfortunately.
Mm.
But again, time will tell.
Yeah,
2025 is the make or break, though,
I agree.
for the Wyatt Six.
All right, Brandon, what do you got next?
Let's take a look here. So going back to TNA, of course, because this is probably one of the only times where you boys let me talk about TNA on the cast, but it's fine. You know, I love me some TNA, but I will say this, kind of related to my first point a little bit. Or rather, TNA will outsell AEW in 2025, but not without WWE's help. So kind of tied with the notion of what I was going on before. But I think we will start to see a lot more arenas that TNA and AEW perhaps even shared, towns that they would have gone through, where I think you're going to see more TNA outselling AEW in various spots. Maybe it starts with Collision, builds up to Dynamite. Hell, maybe even pay-per-views we get to. But I think with the way things are going, you start to see TNA gradually and generally outdrawing AEW.
It's possible. I'm sorry, I don't have much to add for discourse when
Yeah,
it comes to
yeah, I don't
TNA
really
stuff.
either. I think it's a possibility. I wouldn't say it's that hot of a take, but
I mean, maybe a couple of years ago he would have said something a little, but yeah, I don't know.
oh
Like,
yeah, if this was
it's just such
2019,
a
I'd be
weird thing
like, you're fucking nuts.
it's just such a weird thing to say in general because you look at how much money Tony throws or Tony could throw at AEW, and you look at what AEW's done in pro wrestling over the last 5 years, and now we're just like we're debating like, is this even really a number two company anymore? I don't know. I think TNA is up on the rise though, so that's my stance on it. I think they're gonna draw more butts in the seats. I think they're gonna put more eyes on them than AEW will come 2025 or the latter part of 2025 rather.
Eh,
I don't know. In my head, it was a hotter take than that, but now that I
that's
really
all right. I
kind
think
of
we
sit
all
with
have
it and
those.
chew on it, I'm like, wow.
I think we all have those takes. All right, I'll go with my next one. Kevin Owens should defeat Cody Rhodes next week, and Sammy should win the Rumble. It may not be a draw of a storyline, but when you have a story that has 25 years of history, and the, I mean that's a night one main event, and I don't think it's going to be a night two main event. I know it's not really the biggest draw. It's not going to happen, but I think it should because not ever in wrestling do you get something that has 25 years of story, and it's probably not something that'll ever happen again, and that's how you get Sammy as world champion this year.
Can you wait till next year? Because it's probably going to happen next year.
What's one more year?
No.
You
That's
know it's going to
why.
happen next year. Yeah, you
Pierce, were you one of those
do.
guys? Were
No.
you one of those guys who wanted Cody to win at 39 too? It just
When I was
can't wait.
watching, yes, I wanted Cody to win, but now with hindsight, I can see that it was a better option for him to win at 40.
Sammy's winning the Royal
I think,
Rumble next year, man. Not
Yeah,
this year.
I
It's going
agree
to be
with that
next year, though.
wholeheartedly.
I think he's a very
Yup,
clear favorite to win the Rumble next year.
but I don't
absolutely.
think Kevin Owens is going to be a world champion next year. I think this is the year where you give Kevin Owens another world championship run.
He
If
could be a Money in the Bank winner. I could see
he'd
him
be a
winning.
fun
On the
Money in the
contract,
Bank. I just think with after their segment on Raw Monday, which was a fucking great segment, might I add, uh, you just had an outlier for a Mania main event that I did not even think was a possibility until that segment, and I was like, damn, I kind of want to see that. That's why I think it's a hot take because I don't think it's going to happen. I think the clear main events are Cena Cody, and then Punk versus Seth, probably. And I just think this would be a main event where it's never going to happen again because you're never going to have that 25 years of story. They've been wrestling against each other on and off for that entire 25 years. And it's just mind-boggling. They had one Mania match, but they've never had a meaningful feud for a world title. Fucking strike it while it's hot and just do it.
I could very much see them running that match this year and doing it again next year when there's more stakes to it.
yeah, I don't think that's out of question at all. I think personally, there's too much in the championship picture that you can milk out of guys like Cody Rhodes yet, out of guys like Punk, out of guys like McIntyre, out of guys like Reigns. Potentially The Rock, if we're talking
John
wild cards
Cena,
now,
you have a
based on
year of
what you've
John
heard. John
Cena.
Cena. There's so much that's still on the plate right now where Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, even though you're right, from a wrestling point of view, it's a magnum opus of storytelling. But it's not
It's not the
it
right
gets
time.
hot, but I don't think it's just there's so much crowding the plate right now.
CM Punk
You
said it
know?
himself when he cut that promo on in the crowd on Monday. Sami Zayn's not on his level, and as much as I would like to, I might want to see Kevin beat Cody. Sure, I don't think Sammy winning. It's the time isn't now, and that's taking away next year being in Saudi, ignoring that completely. This is not his year to win the Royal Rumble.
All right. I will take it as a hot take then.
Yes, you will, and then it'll be an ice cold take when Sammy wins the Rumble next year in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
I mean, they are
No,
definitely trying to
you
get
broke
Sammy
Neely
familiar
Block.
with the main event.
So,
My opinion, they're definitely, this is the year where they get Sammy familiar with the main event scene and they build him to that eventual pinnacle, that eventual, I should say, peak. But yeah, this is the start. This isn't the top. This is just the base of the mountain for Sammy, I
mm.
feel.
All right, Donnie, what do you got?
um, Sheamus should not win the Intercontinental title.
Not that hot of
Mm,
a take. I
I
kind of agree.
I mean, you've been shilling for it quite a bit on this podcast that he should be winning it. I don't think he should at all.
I
I'm
I
tired
I
of
think it would be
shoehorning
nice, but
I'm tired of shoehorning every single wrestler into check the bucket list for the Grand Slam and Triple Crown and all this and that. And quite frankly, sometimes the story is more captivating when it doesn't happen. And I think for Sheamus, it makes complete sense. Sheamus was a guy who kind of came out of nowhere and became a credible champion very early in his his WWE career, and got to benefit off that quite considerably. And he's of the age now where he's done the big stuff he needs to do, and he has this story that he can keep chasing. I don't know that he needs to ever get it. I don't think he does. I think he can still have a considerable amount of accomplishments without saying he won an IC title 15 years after winning a WWE championship.
yeah,
yeah,
I
I
don't
feel,
disagree.
but then too, like Sheamus has done more than enough to earn his keep too, and I feel like if Sheamus wants it, he'll eventually get it. I don't think it does anybody a disservice. Like if you're, say, like if he wins on Saturday, right? I don't think it does any, demerit to Braun Breaker
Are you
because
sure about
then
that?
you have,
Because Braun Breaker has not defended the title all that much again, and he already lost it once pretty quickly.
that's fair. But I mean, when you look at, the Royal Rumble coming up too, there adds a little bit of intrigue to that. Like Braun Breaker, look at 20 years ago, right? WrestleMania 21, a Kingmaker event where you had Batista and John Cena both winning world championships and effectively kicking off a brand new era of pro wrestling, at least in WWE. So now you can draw parallels to that in storytelling, right? If I'm playing fantasy booker here, Braun Breaker's got something to prove. He's going to throw 29 men over the top rope. He's the young gun, with a clear world championship caliber. So, in addition to Sammy getting groomed for the main event, maybe this is the year Braun gets groomed for main event as well. He's another guy who, he could be Intercontinental Champion for the foreseeable future, and nobody would question that. But what's he really doing as Intercontinental Champion that he could be doing better as, say, like a contender or the actual World Heavyweight Champion?
Putting
Because
on
we talk
banger
about
matches with
Gunther,
other putting on banger matches with other mid card talent that is good for TV.
I mean, I suppose you could argue that too. I mean, you could also argue when we talk about, like, say, Gunther's World Championship reign, and we can talk about how he might fare against Jay come Saturday. But if his reign continues, like, you could argue that his reign has been relatively lackluster as of late. So why not inject a little bit of additional excitement by throwing in a young gun who already has a W over Gunter and who have never faced off against each other in the main roster? You know what I mean? That's kind of where I guess I'm coming from with Braun, I should say, potentially losing the Intercontinental Championship. Maybe it frees him up. Like John Cena losing the United States Championship,
We're gonna
kind of in
tie,
the same vein of what I'm talking
we're
about,
gonna tie this back to Sheamus a little bit here, but um,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Yeah, you went on the
Yeah,
tangent there,
I
Brandon.
was talking about
Yeah.
Sheamus. Yeah, I think it's just the overarching point that not everybody that's good needs to get every accomplishment. Like the Miz being the first person to win both, like that's a cool accomplishment. Like he got the Grand Slam twice, and nobody's still
Hmm.
done that to this point. I don't believe. That's cool.
Not yet,
Like
no.
There's no reason to rush people into doing that. Like, let that be the Miz's thing for a while, and that's fine, right? Like, at least it gives him some kind of credibility that nobody else has, right? But I don't think that everybody should just be rushing into all these. Like, we're talking about Becky going back to NXT so she could have a triple crown and all
Yeah,
this and
but like,
that, you know? Like, it's like,
Which, right? Yeah.
right? Like, how often do we need to give these people just accomplishments that are kind of beneath them by the time they're at that career point in their career, right? Like, again, when did Sheamus first win the WWE title or World Heavyweight title? I mean, they're basically parallels.
2009 and at TLC, he won a tables match in a finish that kind of looked like a botch.
Okay, so it's been 16 years. And how many times has he been champion total?
4.
Four? Okay, so he's won four titles. His first one was 16 years ago. And the crowning achievement of his career is going to be winning the Intercontinental title? Like, come on. Don't agree. Don't think he should. Let's stop forcing it to happen. My opinion.
No,
All
it's
right.
a good take. And on to a TNA take to Brandon.
Yes, the TNA part of our show.
Okay. Well,
TNA
you know
boy
what?
started.
I'm gonna leave. I got one, but I'm just gonna leave that one sit for a little bit.
You said you
I'm
had
just gonna
extras
let that one.
anyway. You said you had extras, so
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I can
We're
certainly
doing
come back to
five
it in
each.
this.
We're doing 5 each, and
Yeah. Oh,
we
I know.
can't let each other go on tangents. I'm sure Donnie's got his finger on the button. So
I just had to cut him
Well,
off that one time on Braun Breaker. That was too much.
sorry.
All good, keep going.
When I get going, building that momentum. Alexa Bliss should not affiliate with the Wyatts ever again. If and when she comes back, she should be complete. She should be different coming back than the Goddess. She should be different coming back than Bride of the Fiend or whatever the fuck she had going on there. I think she should stay way the fuck away from the Wyatt.
I disagree. And I disagree because you probably should have just done this one when I was talking about the wives because you went right after me. But I disagree because I think she's the star that the group needs to actually have some relevance on TV.
need an auntie howdy.
Maybe not like that, but we were just talking about how the Wyatt Six seem like they're kind of like retribution because they don't have a star to let them be the focal point of the show. And I would argue that Alexa Bliss is a big enough star compared to everybody else that's on that faction that she can actually accomplish that for the group.
Maybe on paper, but from a spiritual point of view, though, I feel like it kind of besmirches it because this is, in fact, Bo's project in order to commemorate Bray. Alexa Bliss, owes a lot of career success to Bray as well, and she's gone on record and stated that. So I don't disrespect that at all. But then also, like I was saying, like when you have all these people who you create vignettes for them and you want to try and give them focus and character to some degree, I feel like when you put Alexa as the axial point, the linchpin of the whole thing, I feel like that does more to harm the individuals in the group. And yeah, then you can talk about
But if
the
they're not
whole
good
being
enough,
greater.
if they're not good enough to pull their weight, oh well. Like
Sometimes you need a glue in a group, and I think Alexa should be the glue.
I'm sorry.
So
Like
I
I
agree.
as much as it's like, oh, we're diminishing Nikki, we're diminishing other people by making someone new the focal point. The sixth person was always supposed to be Bray. It's how it's Bo's faction. Like let's remember here that this was supposed to be Bray's faction first and foremost. He
Right.
was supposed to be the leader of the Wyatt Six. Okay, and that didn't happen, unfortunately, because he passed away. Bo was never supposed to lead this faction.
Nope, he was always supposed to be the number 2 as Uncle Howdy.
Yes. So to then put all the onus on a guy who was never supposed to be the top guy, like that's not easy position for him to fail in, and that's got to be like it's stressful, right? I can't imagine how he feels right now, knowing that like we had all this momentum going into the faction, we had a big debut, and now we just sit on the couch or sit in catering or whatever. Like every week. Like it's got to be frustrating for him, and not too dissimilar from what his brother experienced for a long time as the
Oh
Fiend.
yeah.
You know, but
Yeah, you're not wrong.
um, they need a lift. They need a spark. What that spark is, I guess, can still be up for discussion. But I honestly think Alexa Bliss is the easiest way to get that spark. You're gonna have a lot of people. You're not gonna be the only one hating on that if it happens, but if it gets them all on TV and gets them cooking again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Nope. I think she's gonna be the glue and the voice of the group.
Mm.
More so than Bo?
Bo is a good promo. Alexa is a great promo.
I would
I wouldn't say
argue.
Alexa's a great promo.
I would argue that Alexa is better than almost every single woman on the roster when it comes to promos.
I mean, yeah, she definitely is a standout when it comes to character work, for sure, and just general presentation. That I can't argue with.
Like she's not very good in the ring. I think we kind of all know that, and I can't imagine her skill set improving significantly since being off as long as she has, with the birth of her child and all that. But at the
Mm.
same time, the promo work was never her issue. She was always I think she was ahead of the entire Four Horsewomen when it came to promos since they all came up around the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a reason she beat Becky for the SmackDown title randomly. It's
uh,
because
she could talk.
she was the most complete woman on SmackDown.
Mm.
I mean, she definitely came a long way starting as like Blake and Murphy's valet.
Yes, that is
Almost
also
Trish
true.
almost Trish Stratus-esque in a sense. Very,
Yeah.
very similar rises from what I've been able to observe.
Yeah, less overt sexuality, but yes,
No barking
Yes.
like dogs.
yes,
No.
or kiss my ass club near participants.
All right, we're off topic. All right, so good pick, Brandon. Um, I'm gonna go with a wrestling game option.
Okay.
The best pro wrestling game of all time is Day of Reckoning 2 for the GameCube. No
Hell
Mercy
yeah!
and Here Comes the Pain are classics, but in terms of pure fun, like pure simulation and story, Day of Reckoning 2 is severely, severely underrated and needs to be talked about and recognized more.
Yep.
See, now I grew up as a Nintendo guy myself, and it's really hard for me to question the heat on this take, right? I'd say Day of Reckoning, the series is definitely like it holds a very special place in my heart, and I'd say Day of Reckoning 2 is definitely in my top five.
Hey, Donnie,
Yep.
you know what you did with my William Regal take?
Yes.
You mind doing it again?
You want me to find the list of the best wrestling games?
Yep. I feel like Day of Reckoning 2 might be at the end of that list, if on it at all.
Sure.
That's why I believe it as a hot take. Because I don't think a lot of people know that this game really exists.
Well, I mean, the
This was my
GameCube
first.
yeah.
Yeah, the GameCube wasn't the strongest sell in its era.
All right, I'm
It's
going on
definitely got a lot of
IGN.
nostalgic value.
This was my first pro wrestling game, and I still go back and replay it. It has a really good roster. It has Eddie Guerrero with his original "Can You Feel the Heat" entrance, not Gangster Lean, the OG. Can You Feel the Heat with the Lie, Cheat, and Steal combination?
Okay, so it is not on IGN's top 10 list.
Okay.
Um,
And I think it's the only pro wrestling game with Muhammad Hassan.
according to Metacritic, Day of Reckoning 2 scores 13th. And the top, as far as like top ever, with a score of 76. Number
And
one.
real quick, where No Mercy and Here Comes the Pain on that list?
Top three are Know Your Role, No Mercy, Here Comes the Pain.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
I don't know Your Role. I assume it's good, but I know it's.
I mean, the SmackDown series in general on PlayStation had a really, really resounding following. I never played it myself. Again, like Day of Reckoning 2 was my shit. No Mercy was my shit.
I never
WCW
played
and
No
W Revenge
Mercy.
was my shit. But
Game Rant also has it 13. It says Forgotten GameCube Gem.
Yep.
yeah,
And
can't argue with that.
one benefit to it is it says Day of Reckoning 2 is arguably the easiest early 2000s WWE game to revisit in this day and age.
Yep.
Few things keep this title back from greatness, specifically the poor handling of multi-man matches due to an overly sensitive collision system.
Yes, that I do
If you
recall.
know what you're doing, it's pretty easy. You just Z and left, and then your teammate goes and attacks the other guy, and then you hit your finisher, and then you win.
I just like the
Yeah, but
storytelling
you
that was
probably gotta.
associated to those games. Like
Yep.
the current model of 2K storytelling in these games, they're boring. You stand in a locker room, you talk to somebody, you have a match. You go back to the locker room, you talk to somebody, you have a match. And it's like, well, can it just be a bit more fluid than this? Like, I don't know. I thought the
I guess
story
they're
mode was
trying to
very good.
introduce. I guess they're trying to introduce an open world mechanic in 2K25. If
No,
rumors
it's
are to
not
be
an
believed.
open world. It's NBA 2K's like open world where there's courts where you can play games with people and they want you to spend extra money. It's fucking stupid.
So, like finding bingo halls in like Chicago or
I
Philly
don't even
Why,
know
or
why would they be
that.
looking for AEW venues?
oh,
You
hang
mean
on.
GCW venues?
I couldn't help
Because
myself. That was
Brad Lauderdale decided to shoot on AEW and said we did better than them. And then there was a picture of him handing out comp tickets in front of the fucking venue. Good job, Brett.
Yeah,
um,
come back to fight you.
yeah, it was a good game. Best, I don't know. I don't think it was bad though.
Well, with the lists, I'd say it counts as a hot take. And Donnie, what is your number 4?
Uh, I don't know which one of these I want to take. I know what my last one's gonna be. I just don't know which one I want to. Okay, let's do. Uh, I'm gonna say who the most underrated woman in professional wrestling is. And she kind of showed a little bit more of it on Monday if you watched Raw, and that's Zoe Stark.
Not a
Uh,
hot take. It's fucking true.
she is so good in there. Did you see that springboard drop kick that she did in that
Yep.
tag team? Oh my! It was so clean.
Oh,
She was
the,
very good in NXT. And yes, her promo work is not great. We know that, but her in-ring work is fantastic. I would go as far as saying she is probably the. Now I gotta think about this. She's definitely top five, probably higher than five on the women's roster as far as in-ring skill right now.
She has probably my favorite finish in the women's division.
Z360 is dope. Little dangerous,
oh
but
yeah.
like looks
It
cool as
just looks.
hell, very unique. Give her somebody that can be a manager for her, and so we can actually give a shit about her. Like, I'm sorry, this whole PSC shit sucks. Nobody cares about Sheena Baszler anymore. Sorry. Nobody cares about Sonya Deville anymore. Sorry. And you have this third talent who's still relatively young and still very, very good, and is just kind of left to rot with them. And it sucks. She should be able to do more. I hope she wins the Intercontinental title at some point this year because I think she would have a great set of matches as the champion.
Give
I
her the
think she's
Gunther run
very.
with the women's IC title.
I think she would represent the women's Intercontinental Championship very well.
I
But
think
and
so.
yeah, I to your point, I think that her having a manager, a mouthpiece, you don't see that a lot in the women's division. So I think she would be a great candidate for that as well.
Now, who it would be,
Because
I
I
don't
feel like,
know, but
I mean, I'm
Ladies
sure they could
and
come up with
gentlemen,
something.
give her Paul Heyman.
I mean, everybody would love to have Paul Heyman as their manager, but like,
He's way too steeped in bloodline CM Punk business.
yeah. Who would be a good
There's
manager for
Stokely halfway.
her? That's kind of already exist. Like, who could be a realistic one? Like,
Hmm.
Rehire Stokely. He's not doing anything in AEW.
uh, Stokely's not terrible.
Stokely's fucking great.
Trish Stratus might be a little bit of a wild card throw out there, but I mean, they have history. Trisha's good on a mic,
They do.
and
I don't think she's necessarily the right fit for how Zoe is, though. Like,
mm,
Zoe's like tough, rugged, like.
I
I
wish
mean,
you could find Truth Martini in the scrap bin somewhere and bring him back out.
that's a
Because
good
that's a
one.
name I feel like, yeah, Truth Martini is fantastic, but rather he was fantastic. And I mean, if you look at the success that a guy like Prince Nana has had, coming from the same era of Ring of Honor and even before, I don't think it's out of question to see Truth Martini in a prominent role either, based off of his gap.
You know what? If I don't know when her contract is done and how her situation is, where she's at in WWE or AEW, give her Serena Deeb.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that I could think of. Like Serena Deeb and her, I think would be very good. That's who I'm running with, but that's can't happen anytime soon. But she should win the IC title. I hope she does because she's very good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fitting title for her.
She seems like a very ideal person to beat Lyra, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But Donnie, I'm gonna have to say, not that hot of a take.
That's okay. I'm saving it for the last one.
I'm sure it's AEW needs to die. It's bad.
I would say they're already dead, but anyways.
Well,
No, there's a heartbeat. It's just, well, I'll say it in my take.
Go ahead.
No, it's Brandon.
Yes, Brandon, it's your turn.
well, rounding it back to TNA, if you don't mind me doing so.
Oh. We're gonna have to put
And
a limit on
brace your,
these on future shows because I have nothing to
damn,
contribute to these.
everything's a hot take with TNA. Well, maybe you can contribute to this one because I feel like it's a pretty poignant take. Tessa Blanchard could be a big draw for the TNA brand if they're able to sell her controversy effectively.
I mean, they haven't done that so far, have they? They're not. They're refusing to acknowledge it.
I mean,
Oh, well.
they can't not acknowledge the crowd chant she got at Genesis. I feel like at
Uh,
some point they will have to acknowledge it because they're
If
slotting
they're
her in
like,
for a
oh,
prominent
they
role, I
called
feel, in the
her a
company.
Rassi. That's French for really good wrestler. Like, they just pull some bullshit out of their ass. No, they're not going to acknowledge it. One thing that needs to happen is that she needs to say that she made a public apology to the locker room. 'Cause she fucked them over in 2020. And then she did the racist shit.
Yes. And now she's back.
get her on a
So clearly,
reputable podcast. Own the mistake. Move on. That's far better than leaning into it.
Do we count as reputable?
No.
I mean, I feel like
As
we're
much
one
as
of the
I
few
would,
people who,
as much as I,
who would.
that's a weird question. Like, would I even want her on this podcast? Probably not until she owns it.
Right.
Like, I'm
But how do we get
sorry.
her to own it if we don't put her feet to fire?
Well, that's
We're
for
the
someone
ones.
a bit more
We the ones,
reputable
Don.
to do. But I think that if you're trying to push her as a face of the company and don't want to shoot yourselves in the foot, just got to own it and move on.
Well,
Right.
I think part of it is like owning it within storyline also to some degree because again, it's one of those meta things where you can't really ignore it.
I
Everybody
don't
knows
think
why.
it's worth to bring up in storyline, genuinely.
Well, not explicitly necessarily, but clearly
It no other way
she's
to
on
bring
the
it up.
outs with the fans.
She was on the outs with the fans as soon as she showed back up.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. If someone has go away heat, like look at all the cases where people have go away heat and they lean into it. Does that make them better off?
Nope.
How's Chris Jericho doing right now?
Yeah, I feel like it's a coin toss. But
Can
I
you
mean,
give
yeah,
me an
on the note of
example where
Jericho, like,
it's like, is there examples of people who have go away heat that lean into it and are better off?
No.
I mean, I guess you could make an argument for, say, someone like Logan Paul, but Logan Paul, I feel like, is well enough on his own where you can't really draw like a good, healthy line of where he was versus where he is and where he could go.
I don't think the takes on that have differed at all. People don't like him, but they are annoyed at the fact that he's good in the ring. I don't think any of that's changed.
You could say the same about Tessa as well. Obviously, like her talent speaks for itself.
She has one of
I
my
mean,
favorite female finishers in the game too. The Magnum is fucking great.
I certainly didn't agree with the run they had her on where she's beating Sammy Callahan and Brian Cage for world championships.
At the
But
time, it made sense for them to just strike the iron while it was hot. Because
just
she
say,
was one of the
fuck it.
hottest things in wrestling. And then she fucked herself.
and a lot of the people around her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you just gotta
Todd.
own it. Just own it. It's a hot take, I guess, but like for her own career and for those around her, just own it. Just go on, like have an interview with Sean Ross Sapp or somebody else that's like well
Chris
known,
Van Vliet or
Chris Van Vliet, whoever that's well known in the wrestling circles, and be like, "Hey, this happened. I'm sorry. I've, taken steps to try and be better. I don't want this to follow me around, like I'm working hard to improve, blah, 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 blah." It could be lip service, but at
Just
least like you just get it
don't do what Hulk Hogan did.
out of the way.
Don't do what Hulk Hogan did. And give a fake apology and then do nothing to rehab your character.
right.
Yeah.
And like I said, my point, I
Otherwise,
guess, was they can use
Sorry,
what's
otherwise
there
CM Punk
and
will throw her dusty ass over the top rope. Sorry, I wanted to throw that in there because you brought up Hulk Hogan.
no, I'm sure Punk has his opinions on Tessa Blanchard too, as does AJ, and I mean, sure, obviously numerous people do because it sounds
Chelsea
like,
Green can't
look at what-
stand her. That I remember
Did you see
reading up online.
Did you see what happened after Genesis went off the air when they were kind of giving Jordan her flowers and sending her off? Tessa
Yep.
was there, I
Okay,
guess, trying to give her a hug or something, just fucking psych.
It's deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't say she didn't deserve it.
Yeah, Chelsea Green
But everybody
can't
saw it.
stand Tessa Blanchard.
No.
So.
And rightly so, right? But maybe this is where her redemption arc starts, I guess. Because it's again,
she tweeted this.
One of those things you can't argue her talent.
So this was actually a tweet from Chelsea Green because Chelsea's very active on social media, and this was actually from August of 2024, in response to a Fightful article about Tessa Blanchard detailing her personal struggles after TNA title win and TNA release. Chelsea directly replied to this Fightful tweet saying, "I don't wish self-harm or thoughts of suicide on anyone and hope she has found peace. However, a simple 'I am sorry' goes a long way. We haven't heard that yet. Accountability matters, and a redemption tour of interviews won't erase the actions of an egotistical bully."
I remember reading that, and I still rings true.
Yep.
So, like I said, I don't disagree. I think she should absolutely clear the air. She should absolutely mean what she says in apologizing, and she should go forward and show it. But this, again, I feel like is one of those situations where they can take
leaning into it is just the wrong idea.
Well, not like making her more of like a heel necessarily, but I feel like just everybody knows why she's not welcome. She's eligible for rehire in TNA, but the locker room obviously feels different. So I guess we'll see how that plays out, but I feel like there could be, for better or worse, a lot of eyes that Tessa's presence and activity in TNA draws to the company. And I think it could be molded for the better, but again, that all depends on Tessa's contribution to that as well. So,
all right, I think we talked enough about Tessa Blanchard.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't want to talk about her anymore. She makes me angry.
Fair enough.
She sucks.
She's a fantastic worker, but shitty person.
All right. Pierce, what do you got?
AEW will not have a bounce back year this year, but they will not be worse than the past 2 years. Swerve and Hangman and Bryan Danielson withstanding, and Mariah May and Tony Storm. They will be fairly stagnant. They will be a clear number 3 promotion. I think they still probably are number 2 right now, but it seems like, and I'm seeing all this shit on Twitter, like he's holding Rey Fenix and Ricky Starks hostage. WWE has done the same shit. Talents have publicly asked for the release, and they just didn't let them do anything.
Yeah, but the difference there was Vince McMahon didn't criticize Tony Khan, or nobody's criticized Tony Khan for that, but Tony Khan criticized WWE for doing that shit. He's a hypocrite.
Right.
He's a hypocrite.
I don't disagree with that, but we also have to. They're acting like this is the first time this has ever happened.
No,
Tom
it's
P.
not.
Stock
We all remember Mustafa Ali asking for his release publicly.
and
He was still on
Brody
TV,
Lee.
at least. They were both
Brody
still
Lee
on
did too.
TV. They were on
They,
TV.
they were off TV for months, and then they just showed up randomly. It's there. That's a completely different hot take. But all I'm saying is that this year AEW will be fairly stagnant. I think their women's division will be great, and I think their men's division will be okay at best.
You think their women's division will be great?
Well, at the top of it, at least, you got Mariah May and Tony Storm. I think their story is still pretty good.
That
No, I don't care about Mercedes. TBS.
respectfully is one story which cannot carry a whole division and will likely be ending relatively soon. And yeah, the Mercedes Moné skeleton in the closet is still there and is not going anywhere.
However, there is a new star in the making in that division, in Miss
Megan Bain?
Harley Cameron.
Oh.
Yeah, Megan Bain's a bit too soon, I would say.
And Harley Cameron is going to be one of the bigger stars in the division by year's end. She is one of the most entertaining people on the roster currently.
She's definitely an unsung gem, I feel like, in the company. Will she get the appreciation that's warranted? Hard to say at this point. Tony picks his favorites. She's at least getting TV time, and she's at least getting segments. So that much I can appreciate for her.
And on the men's side of the roster, still a lot of very talented people there. So they're going to have 5-star bangers, but will we care is the question.
There hasn't been a really good story besides Hangman Swerve in the past year. So
yeah,
you can make some argument for Will MJF.
The story was fine, but now MJF's in a story with Jeff fucking Jarrett.
I mean, that was very much a Vince storyline, I thought, with MJF and Will Ospreay, with America versus the non-American. Like, that screamed Vince McMahon. I don't think that was a very good story at all.
I felt like it had a good start, at least when you consider the match that they had for the International Championship. Now, I feel like it got, I agree with you, Don. I think it got super ham-fisted by changing it to the American Championship for one guy's title reign who, like, why?
Didn't even need
do
the title to
Brits hate us
begin
that
with.
much?
It didn't even need the title to
Right.
begin with.
What else are you going to do with him? You know, look at him now. Like, what are you going to do with him?
Feuding with Jeff Jarrett. That's what you're going to do with him.
That's why I
guess.
That's why I think they're going to be fairly stagnant. They're gonna, you know, they're gonna have 2 good things and then 2 bad things and 2 good things, 2 bad things. It's just gonna be something stupid every fucking step of the way that cause themselves to shoot themselves in the foot. But they'll still.
Well, and do we unravel the laundry list of people who are like basically publicly saying, "I want to get the fuck out of here"? Like, how's that going to factor into backroom morale?
I guess with the Swerve Strickland and Bobby Lashley storyline, Lashley's refused now to lose to Swerve, so that storyline just ended. And like,
how is Tony Khan letting people dictate? Like, don't get me wrong, I like Bobby Lashley. Why is Tony Khan letting Bobby Lashley dictate what happens here? Why?
And that's very strange coming from a guy who people are like, "Oh, we lined up at the door and tried to give him ideas, but he just kept poo-pooing." And he's like, "I'm going to do what I want to do." It's weird. Sorry, Pierce, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Swerve is like their biggest homegrown star.
I agree. I agree. I think you got to build credibility for this guy. Continue, even though he was world champion and had a okay reign. I don't think it was great. I don't think it was bad.
Say it was a good reign.
It was fine. It was a reign.
It was okay, and then the Ospreay match happened, and it became great.
I don't think a match necessarily makes a reign great, but
definitely put.
Well, and look at how he I know we don't like to talk much about Uncle Melts, but when you consider like how he's risen in, the eye of peers and the eye of whatever you want to call them, specialists or whatever, to go from a PWI ranking of like 119 one year to number two the next, that's nothing to shake a stone at. You know what I mean? Like you've got to take a
He's
guy
good.
who's
He's good. He's one of the
worthy
most.
of that kind.
I think he's probably the most well-rounded talent they have because he did good heel work, he
Absolutely.
did good face work, and he's good in the ring. And I don't think there's very many
Definitely.
people on that roster that can do all three of those things.
No, he's somebody you build a company around.
Mm.
One of like three or four in my mind,
So Lashley not
but Swerve
wanting
is
to lose
definitely
to him,
a central figure.
I could see why Lashley doesn't want to lose to him. Selfishly, like he was a big deal in WWE, Swerve was nothing. He's coming in as this big ticket acquisition. Why do I got to lose to young guy who's not as good as me? I get it. But why is
But
Tony
why
letting
are
that
all of
happen?
their top stars right now 48, 49, 50, 57, 52, 53?
Because
It
that's what Tony's toy boxes allowed him to do.
it's like they're WCW right now. Are
Mm.
they all these guys going to come together and become the fucking Millionaires Club and be the baby faces in the story like in WCW?
Just wait
It's
for Shane
stupid.
McMahon to get in. That's what's going to happen, right?
That
Shane
that's why
McMahon's
I
still
think
coming, right?
that's why I think they're going to be stagnant.
Mm.
I will agree. I like Bobby Lashley. I fucking love me some Shelty Benjamin. And the Hurt Syndicate is one of the more interesting things in AEW currently, but I don't think they're going to be as bad as 2023, 2024 because they were, oh boy, they were not good. But I think they're not going to be good. They're never going to hit 2021 heights again until they systematically fix this all friends clickiness, and that's my take.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's next in the rotation here?
That's me for my last one. At this point in 2025, in how professional wrestling has worked and how the companies, quite frankly, have handled this, I believe that tag team wrestling should only be used to fuel stories. They should not have titles or even, quite frankly, their own division.
Oh,
Donnie,
oof,
that
Doug.
hurt me.
It,
Yeah,
it,
I
it,
felt
it,
pain.
it may hurt, but if none of these companies want to give a shit about tag team wrestling, then why should I as a viewer? Right? We
That's a
I just
had
think
fair
it's crazy.
point, but
I just
brand
you look
split.
at you look at like it's crazy. WrestleMania 39, the tag scene, arguably like the greatest tag team ever, and two big singles guys come together to main event a WrestleMania, and then the following year we finally have the brand split where more teams get a shine, and you're thinking maybe there's a chance that this is warranted, and maybe there's a chance that we could see some fresh life being breathed into the tag division. But look at heading into WrestleMania now, like where are the tag teams?
Yeah, that tag
Who
team
are they?
ladder match at Mania 40, where they split them off. Both sets of titles have been dead. They're trying a little bit on
And it's
SmackDown, but it's not good enough. And Raw is just
Well,
yeah, and
abysmal. Like, what are the War Raiders doing? Wow, they finally took the reign of terror away from Judgment Day and have done nothing except be an accessory to Damian Priest since. Why?
when they brag about how badly they get fucked up all the time, and
Like,
this is our last chance to.
it's stupid,
The
right? Like, we had
poor
this
War Machine,
discussion.
man.
We had this discussion before where I brought up the fact that tag team wrestlers, their biggest moments seemingly have been their standalone moments. I brought up Jay, brought up Sammy, brought up Kofi Kingston, right? And
Arguably Jeff Hardy, even too. Like,
yes, yes, and it's
Matt
like
Hardy too.
Edge,
yeah,
Christian.
like, and we're at the point that's like, why bother? Why waste our time? The women's tag team titles are an absolute joke. They have been basically since what? Uh,
They
sh-
were invented.
since what? I'd probably say since Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax were champion. I would say.
Yeah.
before Nia got fired the first time.
Yeah.
Uh,
After and Sasha and Naomi had to give them up too. That was another low point. And we can mention the curse of the women's tag titles where someone's getting hurt every fucking reign.
yep. Like nobody cares. Remember when fucking Aaliyah and who is her? Was it Raquel? Like Raquel and
I would
Aaliyah
say,
were tag
remember
team.
when? What are we remembering?
Like Raquel and Aaliyah were tag team champions. Like
Yeah, man.
With coffee.
what the fuck? And like I said,
Yeah.
SmackDown they're trying a little bit, mostly honestly because SmackDown's lacking in star power. Um, but like, why do I care about you know Legato, or why do I care about Grayson and Austin Theory, who should have broken up a year ago? Or why do
No,
I?
Yeah.
no, you could say that on the podcast, but I can't say, "Oh, I hope you're ready for a cradle shot, Grayson," on fucking Twitter. And
No, I'm saying as a tag team. You don't slander singles talent Grayson Waller, but as a tag team, that tag team sucks.
Yes.
Um, right? And like all these other tag team, even the Motor City Machine Guns, hype brought in, they won the title right away. Do we care? I don't personally care. They still don't get any
Well,
pops when they come out for their matches. No pop.
it's it speaks volumes that they were pretty much shoehorned into the tag team title picture, and ultimately the tag team titles like what 2 or 3 matches into them being in the company.
Yep.
Like they were champs immediately. I went to bed knowing the Guns were in the company. I woke up the next day, they're fucking tag champs. I'm like, I get it. It's the Machine Guns. They came in with all this hype and fanfare, but like, what the fuck?
And then they
And it
lost it,
really
what, a month
does,
later?
yeah, to DIY. I'm like, but not to take anything away from DIY and not to take anything away from the Guns or anybody, but like, I mean, let's be honest. It really speaks volumes to the state of tag team wrestling, particularly in 2024, when people are saying your best teams in the entire realm of tag team wrestling are Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill and Fraxium.
Yeah,
Not to take
Fraxium.
anything away from Fraxium. Fraxium,
Fraxium.
the developmental tag team
They
champions.
stand alone because, Sean made some effort to book them. Though I would argue that a lot of
Yeah,
their challengers they haven't really had credible challenges. Um,
right.
but that's part of how development works, right? You have this great champion and you have people try and take it away to prove themselves, which is fine. But even like I said, Bianca and Naomi, Bianca and Jade, like their reign was lackluster too. Ah, I don't know. And AEW, I'm not even going to start on that, but their tag team division's a joke too. And it has been ever since the trios titles that got introduced, and those titles are also a joke. So at the end of the day, who is even the trios champion in AEW right now?
Still, it's still what's their nuts? The Death Riders.
yeah,
They're
But
still the
in
trios
all likelihood,
champions?
um,
yeah, I know you'd forget about it because they're never even talked about.
I
But
totally
you could.
forgot about that.
It looks like though. It looks like you might be positioning for an undisputed Kingdom slash era trios tag title reign with O'Reilly, Cole, and Strong. You
Great.
got to give them something to do.
and
Sure.
It's not like
and
people would hate
and the
it.
Hurt Syndicate did just win the tag titles, so they
Wow, what a reign for the
Oh,
had.
private
hooray!
party. Wow.
Do you hear the? Do you hear the applause?
I
Way to
hate that
go!
they did not get any follow up. They deserved it,
They got
and
buried.
Oof.
it's not fair to Private Party. Those guys are so
Well,
great.
Well, and on that note too, like I'm sorry, like but Private Party as an example, like do we think Pierce, you follow AEW a little more than I do. Do you think Private Party's run of work has warranted them getting a lengthy title reign, or do you think that was more of like a thanks for sticking with me from day one, here's your prize, you deserve it sort of?
It's the
Ladder.
second.
It's the ladder.
It should be number one, but
They were never built
it's
that
the
way.
second. They were never taken seriously until the tail end of the year.
It's okay.
But
You'll
Yeah.
get your hype moment when the Outrunners beat the Hurt Syndicate. So
Yeah,
oh yes,
there it is. That's the
and
ticket, Pierce.
everyone will love it. They're like, yeah, the Outriders are great, and yeah, maybe they are, but again, who gives a shit?
I give a shit about the Outrunners, and if you talk shit about them, I will fly up to Canada and I'll fucking put 10,000 pounds of fury from cocaine and steroids like the Outrunners.
I keep calling the Outriders, excuse me. But nevertheless, that's my take. I think it might be a hot one. It might be a painful one, but I think it's also a true one. If they don't give a shit, why should I?
Okay, Brandon, what's your take? I don't want to talk about tag titles being taken away from me.
I mean, I could still. That was a good one. That stung.
It's a good one,
I
but
don't know. I don't know if I saved best for last with this one. Maybe you guys will have differing opinion on it. My thought is not for the World Heavyweight Championship, but the next three WWE champions should have 3-month title reigns at most.
Yes.
no, yeah, I
I
agree.
think
Yes.
I think we're due for a series of shorter title reigns.
Please.
I think we can still milk Cody till WrestleMania, maybe a little after. But after that, like holy fuck, we need to switch it up.
If it's Cena Cody and Cena wins, he should hold it till like SummerSlam.
Yeah, at the
Yeah,
most.
yeah.
Have him get it taken off of him at Money in the Bank. Honestly, single night cash, like same night cash in. I don't give a shit. Like
I don't want any same night cash-ins for a while.
I would love. I still think the call there is have Cena finally win it at SummerSlam and have the Money in the Bank winner cash in there.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
there'll
it
be a
wasn't
lot of
that one
heat.
the one I brought up last week. Logan Paul.
Yeah,
No.
Telling you.
either Logan
No.
Paul, either he wins the title off Logan Paul because Logan Paul wins Money in the Bank and cashes in the same night, or Logan Paul wins Money in the Bank and cashes in on John Cena as soon as he wins at SummerSlam. Both of those
An
options
accomplishment
make a lot of sense.
an accomplishment befitting of the only man to ever beat Floyd Mayweather.
Jesus
Lest we
Christ,
forget.
that was the dumbest thing
He
I've
said
ever
so
heard.
himself, Pierce. How are you going to doubt the man? I mean, I guess you could just look at the record. You could probably Google it, but
The
But
only
yeah,
man
he
to
was
go
so
to Japan
confident.
and take a
to,
video of a dead man and post it online for clicks.
to the point that you're making about the length of the title reigns, yes. Main title reigns have been too long. On the men's side, the women's side, I think it's been fine. I don't want Rhea to have another long reign, though, please. I think she should honestly lose it at WrestleMania. I don't know who the hell that's going to be to. If it's EO, fine. But I don't think Rhea should have another long reign in her. But relating to the men's of it, like Roman held it for a really long time. Okay. And then Cody beat him. And that was it. Seth won the initial World Heavyweight title. Held it for quite a while. And then
A year.
there was a little bit of ping ponging in there, technically speaking. Like Drew won, which doesn't count. And then Damian cashed in, fine. And then Gunther beat him, what, 4 months later?
Mm-hmm.
No, he beat him. No, it was yeah, it was about 4 months. Yeah, from it won it at SummerSlam, and then Gunther's had it now
Yep.
since SummerSlam. So like that one has been like okay. The Seth reign was probably a little bit too long. And now the
I get it though.
Gunther,
They needed to establish the legitimacy of the belt.
yeah, and then the Gunther reign, it could be too long if he holds it past Mania. We'll have to see, but yeah, I just think there has been some. Even though there's so many good options to have at the top of the card, it's still been a
It's
little
a
bit
good
stagnant.
problem to have.
Yeah, just get some numbers up for these people, right? Like, I still think that Randy Orton should be the one that beats Cody Rhodes, but I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't argue with it. I feel like it's weird saying this about the year 2025, but I feel like a lot of your top two guys hovering around the top title, at least on SmackDown, are going to be Randy Orton and John Cena.
Yeah, Randy Orton, John Cena, I could very well see being the two title holders out of WrestleMania.
They both have a big chase going on. They don't have a lot of time to accomplish it.
Yeah.
You know, Randy can talk all he wants about, oh, I can do this till I'm 50, but like, let's be real. With, you know, the state of the injuries he's had, I don't think he's got it.
So you
His
got
back
I see it.
cannot take that many more RKO's.
so you got Randy.
No, he cannot.
you get Randy and Cena to win. Then you could easily have someone like Logan Paul. You could have CM Punk beat John Cena, right? Then
Yep.
you bring back Seth Rollins into that mix. Then from there you bring Cody back again or whoever, right? And on the
You
other side,
can't leave Roman Reigns out.
you know Roman Reigns is going to
You know,
get his. That could be from Punk as well. If there's a lot of talent. Inevitably, you're going to give the rub to somebody like Braun Breaker or Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, whoever. Um, there's no reason that these guys should be having more than 6 month title reigns in the near future. I would say, like we had the long title reign with Reigns, who was the only title holder, and then they immediately dragged out the next one too. So
Right.
yeah, I don't think it's a hot take, but I think it's an accurate one. Sorry, Brandon.
That's fine. I don't think I had too much heat in my showing this year. I had a lot the first time around, so
Yeah,
I
you've
mean,
maybe
you've you've gotten soft.
Maybe I'll have to revisit some of that. Yeah, getting too comfy.
we could
Gotta.
see your take. We're TNA, and we really don't have much to talk about TNA. So
Oh, we'll have more to talk about, I'm sure,
I was
as the
expecting a
year goes
Maple
along.
Leaf Pro Wrestling take from you too, which clearly I'm very disappointed about.
Oh,
you're gonna be disappointed about it. It's okay, Derry.
I'm just teasing, but yeah.
well, they did make an announcement that they're going to say something about it, but
They made
who knows when and where that's
announcement
going to
for an
come.
announcement. Did they actually? I didn't know that.
They
That's
Yeah, they're talking about, oh, if you thought we were bringing it with the first show we did, oh, wait till you see what we got in store for 2025. And they said something about that probably like 3 weeks ago at this point.
they should
So
honestly have a show on the Sunday after Elimination Chamber while they still have people in the
that would be
seat.
smart.
If I was
That would be
if
smart.
I was running, I would be trying to get a show together for the day after Elimination Chamber and try and keep people. And I would have announced it by now so that people can arrange their travel plans around it. But that's just my opinion.
Right. Well, and in the GTA too, where MLP has its roots,
Yeah.
and obviously the biggest metro area in Canada, like that's a no-brainer.
Yep. Lots of venues they could have it in too. So, anyway.
Definitely.
All right. Pierce, you got the last one.
All right. Uh, Keith Slater should come back to the. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God.
The
Oh, hey,
three-man grand prophecy will happen.
I agree.
To quote the famous Britt Baker to Serena Deeb, nobody cares.
I care.
Listen,
That's not
that
my.
is
That's
that
my
is
take.
that is a hot take. I care very much.
He's got kids.
Yeah,
He's
there you
got
go.
kids, Donnie.
Great.
No.
He's got kids.
No, my hot
Probably
take
got
is
more
that
kids
John
now.
Cena will not headline the WWE Hall of Fame this year. This year is specific to the end of his in-ring career. The Hall of Fame will be headlined by him within the next 2 years, though.
I don't think that's a hot take either.
Yeah, no.
Fine, you want a hotter
I
take? Penta will become the world champion by the year's end.
Hmm? Sorry?
Who?
Penta Cero Miedo, Pentagon Dark, Pentagon Junior,
Penta.
whatever.
Penta,
Penta.
Penta
His name is
Oscuro.
Penta.
Penta Obscuro.
His name is Penta.
He has about 67 names, Donnie. You
The
just
only one that matters right now is Penta.
will be the world heavyweight champion by the end of the year.
He will not be.
I think he will be.
I know he will not be.
I think, yes, he will be. Cero Miedo.
I love how you snuck in like three
Mm.
hot takes there for the price of one.
Hey, the first one was a joke. The second one was not as hot as I thought it was going to be. And the third one is definitely a hot take.
I won't argue with you come 2026. I feel like 2025 is a little soon.
Again, there's still too many people at the top of the card. It's the same issue as Sammy, right? It's the same, like, why wouldn't Sammy be champion before him?
And it's easy to feel the heat of these enhancement matches that he's having. It's easy to see that he's coming in every week with new shit, new tools. The fucking spiral pyro he had.
That
Right.
was so
But
good.
and Penta's talent speaks for itself. He's getting a chance to showcase it a lot more than he did in AEW. That being said, like Donnie is saying, there's a lot of there's a lot of cream at the top right now. You know, the Macho Man. Cream of the crop, rising to the top. Oh yeah, all that.
Rises to the top. Oh yeah.
And I will say WWE right now is extra creamy.
Hotter than it's ever
And
been. So hot that we can charge 10 times the cost for WrestleMania tickets as we did the year before.
yes,
I'm still mad
and
at that.
people will still buy it.
Yes, I'm still
That's
mad
the
at that.
unfortunate part of it. Yeah, I hear you, bud. I'm right in that
Uh,
same boat.
well, you snuck one in, Pierce. Brandon, did you want to sneak one more in? Ideally, not about TNA.
Well, ideally, right? But you know how life goes.
Yeah.
Let me take a peek here at the list. On the note of Pentagon Junior, Pentagon Black, Pentagon
Penta.
Oscuro, da da da. He taunts too much. He just does the damn taunt too much. There, I
Yeah.
said it.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I could see people not liking
Yep.
that opinion.
Everyone does the Cerro Miedo. Oh, it's so cute, but like, it's when you're doing it like every 5
Yeah,
fucking minutes. Sure, we get it.
So yeah.
It's too damn much. It's just too
Uh,
damn much, Pierce.
the one I'm going to sneak in here is the person that should beat, since we're talking about champions and who could win championships and all that, the person that should beat Ric Flair's record for most championships
Nope. I
is
know who you're going
is still and forever was always supposed to be Charlotte
to stop
Flair.
it.
It should be
No.
Charlotte Flair.
No.
It will be.
I'm sorry. No, it won't be if John Cena wins this year, which I still think he will.
It's a direction you can fuck.
But I want to say that way too many people hate on Charlotte Flair because of her prior booking, which is not a fault of her own. She is still the measuring stick for that women's division as far as the full package of promo work and ring work goes. And she should win the Royal Rumble, and she should not beat Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania, but still
Okay, I was about to
inevitably
press it. I was about to press it again.
inevitably beat her father's most titles.
I mean,
know.
I'm sure that will absolutely happen.
Yeah,
I have no doubt in my mind.
I know Pierce doesn't like that, so that's why I said it.
I don't like it either. I'm just you just can't argue with it, you know?
I can't argue with it.
I wonder who made the decision to throw Flair in her last name because she was just going off of Charlotte, even though we all knew
It was probably
right?
Vince.
It wasn't enough for her just to be Charlotte. She has to be Charlotte Flair and throw on her dad's robe and do the woo and all that shit and win title after title after title after title.
Well, maybe she
But-
wasn't enough to get her over the way that the company wanted to without it. Anyways,
Well, and then I guess that's begs the question: does she deserve to break the record? Then
she's still very good in the ring and on the mic.
no argument there. Just saying, when it comes to eclipsing the record,
That covers our Hot Take Emporium for Q1 2025. I'm sure we could consider opening it up after WrestleMania. Again, once we have the full culmination of WrestleMania season. So that's something that we
in
can.
the next quarter. So
Yeah, so we can look into that probably sometime in May. But for now, the Hot Take Emporium is closed once again. And with that, we're going to go into Saturday night's main event. That's coming up this weekend out of San Antonio, Texas.
do this as quick hit predictions, or are we doing?
Yeah. We're already near the 2-hour mark on the show, so I don't want to get too deep into this. There is 4 matches and 1 segment booked, so I'll start with the segment. That is Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens set for a Royal Rumble contract signing conducted by the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. Any thoughts on
The hometown boy.
whether Shawn Michaels gets package pile drived or not? Pile driven?
I kind of think he's gonna hit Cody accidentally with Sweet Chin Music. Like Kevin's gonna say something to piss him off. Table's gonna get flipped. He's gonna break him up. Kevin like punches him. He gets up, kick. Kevin's like, "Oh no!" And then Cody just eats the shit out of it.
I mean, it did see Kevin Owens wearing a Bret Hart jacket this Monday, so he thinks he's going to be in something of a fighting mood with Shawn. about that.
Yeah, he loves
But
trolling. His
yeah,
Canadian
even
Dream
though
son of a system security technician shirt was perfect.
the
Love that.
picture of the Canadian working class there, Don.
Absolutely. That's why he got the A award last week.
Yes, he did. Well deserved.
Next up for the Women's World Championship, Rhea Ripley's first defense will be against, for some reason, Nia Jax.
Big meaty women slapping meat? Question
Sure.
mark?
I mean, Rhea's not losing. I just don't know
No.
why we're doing this match.
It'll be fun. They
Yeah,
have good
But
chemistry.
it's strange.
they had this
Like they had
match already. When did they have this match?
Elimination Chamber
Elimination
last
Chamber.
year.
Elimination Chamber. That's right, in Australia. So it's not like we've
Hmm.
been dying for this match.
Nope.
Right.
And
I mean,
Nia
granted,
has
Nia's stock has gone up, but
she. Don't you think she should be going back after the title that she lost?
There's
yes,
still time.
100%.
So
The
she's just
time
gonna
was
Maybe
lose.
she
now.
wants to be
So she's
Nia
just gonna
too, though.
lose to both champions in the span of like a month.
The time was now. She should have been. It should have been Tiffany and Nia in
I
this.
agree. It should have been
I
Tiffany
don't know.
versus Nia. I don't know why we did the Bailey match last week. I don't know why we're getting Rhea versus Nia now. And I don't know when they're going to do Tiffany
Fortunately,
versus Nia next, but
fortunately, a match with two heels is kind of tough, so that's probably why.
is Tiffany a heel now?
Yes.
I would. Uh,
I'd say
I wouldn't
Maybe
go
a
so far.
tweener at
she's a
best.
tweener. I think you're going to see
And then,
it'll be curious to see how they inevitably bring back Charlotte Flair after she may or may not win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber, to most likely have this feud with Tiffany. And will Charlotte be a face or a heel? Because Charlotte should probably be a heel. It's where she's best.
she's a lot better at it.
Yeah, so shouldn't then Tiffany be more of a face?
Yeah.
I'd say so. Well, look at how Tiffany comes off. She's just a lot more likable, I feel, than Charlotte in general. And I feel like Tiffy you can get behind a lot more because she did effectively outsmart the entire women's division on SmackDown in cashing in on Nia when she did.
Mm.
And I
Right.
feel like
I agree.
I feel like Tiffany needs to build momentum a lot more because talking about Rhea, she doesn't need the world championship to be a superstar. She doesn't need the world championship to headline events or shows or anything like that. You have someone right now who is your future, not to say it because Rhea and Tiffy are basically the same age, which is crazy to think about. But Tiffy is someone who you should be putting stock in now and building up as the future of your company. And you need to get this feud out of the way with Nia. If you really want Nia to pursue Rhea in any capacity, like you said, let's get the feud with Tiffy out the way first. Like, let's give Tiffy a moment to shine on Saturday night's main event. Give her a 1, 2, 3 over Nia, and then Nia can do whatever the fuck she wants after that. Tiffy can do whatever the fuck she wants after that. But this is just hanging right now for a match that nobody wanted to see. Match that makes no sense from a booking perspective, and you look at how it hurts Bailey too. Like she just got on Raw, now she lost #1 contendership status to a chick from SmackDown. Like, what are we doing here?
Mm. Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu.
Meat.
Yeah,
This is where you push the button.
yeah.
Big meaty man slapping meat.
Yeah.
You know what?
Big meaty man slapping meat.
It deserves to. Jacob
Yeah.
Fatu wins
Yep, agree. It'll be fun.
Yep.
with the full moon salt, as it
Yes.
should be called.
Yeah, Fatu's going to pull a lot of crazy shit out for this one,
He's gonna have
which
to.
I'm excited for.
Braun's a big lad. He's gonna have to.
And he's no pushover at all.
Nope. For the Intercontinental Championship, Braun Breaker versus Sheamus.
Braun.
I hope so.
Also,
Big meaty man slapping meat.
Okay.
what it is.
Trifecta. Hat trick.
Yeah, it's a hat trick.
My mind says Braun. My heart says Sheamus.
No, your heart should not say Sheamus. You are wrong.
Mm, my
Saturday
heart's
night
going with
main
Sheamus.
event.
He can't go out like
Uh,
that.
and in what's probably going to be the main event, I would assume, Gunther defends the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso.
I think an argument can be made for Jay, but I don't see it happening here. I think Gunther continues his reign and in a more than likely banger.
Hear me out.
Yeah,
Jey Uso wins. Roman Reigns wins the Rumble.
No. I don't want to see that match again.
oh my God. I couldn't imagine. I cannot imagine. That's a trip. Jey Uso holding the world championship, having to fend off an oncoming Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. That's trip. That's that's like some career mode booking in 2K right there.
I'm just putting ideas out there. I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm just
It's
putting
not. It's an idea.
if Jay
It
was to
is.
win, then that's who you have win the Rumble. Just saying.
Or you
To
could
your
have
point,
Sammy win the Rumble. Jay and Sammy. You got that story there.
That's not a WrestleMania
eh,
main event. I'm sorry.
no,
It's a good
it ain't.
Mania opener.
Sure.
Eh.
Yeah, I mean you could. We've had title matches open the show and be very good before. Um, but if you
Or
To
wanted
your
to,
to
Drew.
your
Like there's
to
a
your
lot of ways that you go from there.
yeah,
to your
there's three guys that could do it. Sorry to keep cutting you off, Brandon, but yeah, those are three guys that could win the Rumble if Jey Uso was to win the title on Saturday.
Yeah, to your point, Pierce, I feel like when you talk about reasons for Jay winning the championship, like when you talk about, coming into Netflix, I feel like this could be one of those instances where Netflix gets in TKO's ear and says, "Hey, look, we see you got this guy coming out with Travis Scott. We see this guy selling a lot of merch. You got everybody doing the E chants. We want to put the belt on this guy. We want you to put the belt on this guy as soon as possible because if Gunther's not even good enough to come out for anything except a 30-second video package on the first episode of Raw and he's that show's world champion, that in my mind says something. So based on that, I feel like there could be a chance. I feel like it could be a Netflix influence potentially, being like, hey, this is what we want to see in your championship picture. But beyond that, I would say Gunther should absolutely continue with his world championship reign. I feel like there's more he's still got to do. He's got to spice. He's starting to get better at the promo game. So, I mean, he's coming into his own there a bit more. You don't got to
Yeah,
argue with his in ring.
from one of the past 2 Mondays have been great.
Yeah, no argument of how good he is in the ring. And he's getting better with promos. So he's hanging better as world champion. But I could easily see them throwing it on Jay for reasons that I stated too.
Yep. I think Gunther retains, but I see it's a non-zero chance that Jay wins. Unlike the aforementioned Nia versus Rhea match, where Nia has no chance of winning.
Mm.
But I think that's all we got for today. Next week we will have results of the show, and we will also be talking about the Royal Rumble, which will be a lot of fun, I bet. So hopefully we have a card for the
I bet
Royal
it will be a
Rumble.
lot of fun too.
I hope
Yeah,
we have
Pierce will bet, I'm sure.
I hope we have a card for the Royal Rumble though, like I said, just because like we only have three matches technically, and one of them isn't even really being promoted, and that's the Women's Royal Rumble. So
Yeah,
uh,
Plus, the
there's
winner
not a
of the
lot of
foregone
stake in that right
conclusion
now.
was Io Sky.
no, it's gonna be Charlotte Flair.
No, it's not.
Well,
Well,
we can
Becky
have
Lynch is
this
there too, fellas.
argument next week.
Yeah.
But for now, we will have to say good night, I believe. If anyone else has anything to add.
Brandon?
Wasn't really not really anything that happened on the weeklies, was there? That we wanted to bring up that was interesting. I mean,
Not
Trick
with us
Oba.
already going over 2 hours, I would say.
Yeah,
Not really.
yeah.
NXT was by the
There's
books.
stuff's a brewing, as it is, as it
Yeah.
will.
Stuff's a brewing for us to drink, boys. Because as always, thanks for stopping into the Ope-Eh 3-way. Have a beer on us. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.